Beatrice Lemm and Tamika Harrison. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Hello, Bianca.
How
Thanks
are you?
for having
Actually,
us.
can we have that mic
Yep, sure.
closer to you? Perfect. So Beatrice, you're
Yes.
from Utana Wellness and East West Ayurveda, and Tamika from the Sattva Centre.
Yes. Thank you.
So Utana means?
Utana actually means, it's a Sanskrit word for rise. And when I actually came up, well, together with my brother, he did some work with me in getting a design and logo, and he's very artistic like that. So it was really wonderful to be working with him, and and so we came up with the name together.
Together.
Yeah. So it was the beginning of the wellness, looking at it as a holistic approach, of course, incorporating all aspects of your life, and it's been a wonderful journey so far, and looking forward to lots more.
That's right. It's a bit addictive, isn't it, the health journey? Because you see the benefits, so you just keep on going, keep on searching, keep on educating, oneself on this topic, and you find out more and more things. Just when you think you know it all, you want something around you, like what garlic is like healing on so many levels. For example,
Totally.
it's always been around us, but we didn't know the power of it.
Yeah.
But once you start researching it.
That's right. I mean, the medicinal properties of all the foods, obviously, and herbs and spices. And I think it's also, as you become more aware of your own sense of balance and wellness, you then also take on more responsibility for it, so that you don't hand it over to others to determine what happens to you. So you work it out for yourself, and you take on that responsibility, not only for your extrinsic environment, but your internal environment as well.
So important. So it just brings to mind that word, empowering oneself, empowerment. And I think a lot of people, they don't have confidence. Even I hear people around me saying, I'm just going to go to the doctor. Oh, what's wrong? I don't know, I just feel a bit flat, or I don't know. It's almost like sometimes people want to go to the doctor just as like a security blanket, like for that security, especially the older generation I'm talking about now, just to visit the doctor, makes them feel good.
Absolutely. And having that support is really essential. It's really important, but not through disempowering our clients, but actually giving them their own health back. Because you do actually, if you turn inwards and if you give yourself enough awareness, there is an answer, and you do have a very strong input to how you feel by the choices that you make.
It's interesting that you say that we know we can know intuitively what's wrong with oneself if we look and say, okay, what did I do yesterday? What did I eat yesterday? Maybe did something happen with someone that I feel like this, or that I didn't sleep? To look at all those things, not to be too over analytical. It's not saying to be paranoid, it's just saying being aware.
Totally. And to give yourself enough time and space to come into that awareness, so then the knowledge or the knowingness actually comes up, but we're too busy to be jumping on to the next thing. And it's not a quick fix, so it's not sort of pop a pill and then you feel better. It's making those long-term gradual changes, which are the ones that actually really begin to turn things around. And it's having that patience and that belief, and allowing yourself, well, I suppose also allowing yourself the time, but also honouring yourself enough that you are worth it, and that it is your job to actually look after you.
I like how you said making space too, because sometimes if people are too busy or busy and not making time for oneself, then there's not that space to check in and just go quietly over. Sometimes people say when they go to bed, they'll just lie there before they fall asleep and just go over the day or go over the checklist of tomorrow, but in a relaxed way, just checking in with oneself.
Yeah. And we can do that regularly throughout the day. And if we do that, you will travel through the day so much lighter. You won't be sort of chewed up and spat out at the end of the day. You will finish the day with still a lot of energy, and really knowing, or having that awareness through the day that you've actually lived the day, that you've been there, you've been part of your life, you haven't missed it. So even people that meditate or do their regular practice, if they do it in the morning, fantastic. They do it in the evening, fantastic. But what about that space in between? So quite often that is kind of lost because we just get into the doingness. So having those little reminders along the way to go, okay, stop, just take a breath, feel your feet on the ground, awareness, and then that next moment is of so much more ease. It flows much more better. Much more better. That was really good English, wasn't it? Much better. Because you are stepping back into the moment. You're stepping back into your life and not into the past or to the future or everywhere else in the head.
Yeah, I saw a quote recently. A Buddhist monk said that when people are doing mundane chores around the home, to really do them, like when you're hanging out the washing, hang out the washing and notice that you're hanging out the washing and breathe and enjoy it. It doesn't have to be, annoying. You can enjoy it. You've got the sun on you, the birds are around. I know it sounds so corny, but he was just making a point to just get in the moment, do your ironing, cook your food, do it with presence and mindfulness, and he worded it much better than what I just did, but I wish I could remember the exact quote. But
and it's the simplicity of it. So we feel we always need more, but if we strip it back and keep it really back to basics, that's actually where you can do your proper practice, when it is very simple, because you just keep your attention completely on task. And through the School of Practical Philosophy, they have the beautiful practice where you let the attention rest where the working surfaces meet and let all else fall away. It's just a beautiful practice.
Can you say that again?
So let the attention rest where the working surfaces meet and let all else fall away. So you're bringing yourself completely back into connection of, let's say, the hands in the water, or the water and the dishcloth, if you're doing the dishes, for example, and your whole attention is just on that. And it's a completely different experience. And you'd be quite happy to do the dishes all over again because you were completely present and it was everything that you needed to be doing in that moment. There was nothing else.
So someone listening is saying, well, what's the big deal? Why should I concentrate on hanging out the washing? Why should I care if I'm really washing the dishes and feeling the sponge in the water? What's the point if someone isn't getting it, which I can understand how some people wouldn't get it.
Totally. Well, you're actually missing the moment. You've actually missed the only thing that's real. And the only thing that's real is this moment. So the past, the present is in your imagination, but the past and the future, should I say, but the present is actually the only thing that's real. And we keep missing it. We keep missing our life because we're either in the past or in the future.
And that perhaps is there a meditative quality of being in that moment of hanging out the washing and washing the dishes and really focusing on it, because it's perhaps like some meditative thing too, because then we're not ruminating in our mind, we're not thinking of the conversation we just had or the email we need to send and all of that stressing out.
Exactly. And all of that happens in the mind is actually just a story. So yes, you might have a thought, I need to pick up some milk from the shop or whatever it might be. I need to go do some shopping. But then it's when, so the thought is great and then you need to act on it, fine. But it's when you are in the process of hanging out the washing, let's say, we've used that example, and the mind is then going, oh, I need to get some milk, but then I need to go and do that. Oh, but then don't forget this, and the fridge needs a clean, and all of a sudden you're going into a whole big story of all these other things that need to be done or that you haven't done or you should do, and it flows from there. And in the meantime, you've hung out all the washing, but you were not present there at all. I mean, driving somewhere is a really good example. So you leave home, you get to work, and you actually miss that whole journey. You weren't really aware of any of the surrounds, any of the smells, the senses were sort of almost shut down because you're too engaged in the thoughts, and it was all this imaginary story.
But in addition, but in addition, from a physical perspective of what presence also does is relieves the system of that chronic fight, flight, or freeze response. So, one of the underlying causes for a lot of chronic disease, whether that be mental health right through to nerve conditions and pain to skin issues, really is a strong part of that is the fact that we have an overdrive of that fight or flight response, adrenaline and cortisol running around in our system. And it's a really toxic drug when it's overused, or a toxic chemical when it's overused in the human system. And so when we're not present and we're reliving our lives in our minds all the time, that is activating that stress response constantly in the body. And so by bringing yourself back to what it is that you're doing in this moment at this given time is planting yourself in not only in your mind but your physical body as well, and it relieves the body of that stress response. Practiced enough times, obviously. It can't be a once off. It's something that we have to continuously come back to, but it can be a key part to actually healing, is starting to practice becoming more present and more connected, because the more that you're living your life through your mind rather than what's happening right here, that is actually also part of a chemical response that's happening in your body as well. And we actually do have some say in that. We can be aware of it and start to switch it on and off when we want it, rather than it constantly running on autopilot, or that stress response running on autopilot, which so many of us do. It's almost like the norm now, if you're busy and stressed out and distracted.
True.
So that's just also from a physical healing perspective, that if we want to get better from these ailments that so many of us have, that is a key component to it. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, so agree with that. And that constantly being in the future does lead to anxiety, because it's then this playing out of how you think it might go or it might not work out, and all of those stories. But then also, if we're constantly reliving what has been in the past, and you could'ves and you should'ves and the regrets, and you playing out those conversations, and we all do it, but that also can't be changed. I mean, we can't do anything about that, and it can also lead us to feeling very heavy, and as Tamika said, that chemical change that happens into the body. And then we do it often enough, and then we're constantly in that heightened mode. And we were talking about potentially talking today about high blood pressure. And so if you are constantly in the present, then you can allow the whole body to regulate and come into that state of balance. But in the future, the past, you're kind of setting a new norm for the body as well. That heightened fight or flight, and then the body goes, okay, this is how we are now functioning, and so then it kind of does that reset, which is not our normal state of balance.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Like we're sort of creatures of habit, subconsciously and consciously.
We're also conditioned as well. Yeah, we're conditioned from a very young age. Hurry up, it's time for school, put your shoes on, eat your dinner, hurry up, quick. And so it is also something that is a generational practice as well, which is a whole nother conversation. But definitely something that a lot of us are doing even without recognizing that that's a practice. And that's where the holistic approach to healing is so important, because you can be eating all the right foods, and you could have a fridge full of the best foods in the world, but if you're stressed out to the eyeballs, it's only going to go so far. So it takes a bit of everything to get better, that's for sure.
So while we're on that topic of blood pressure, let's just go through a few things that people can do, because blood pressure is something that a lot of people are going to experience in their lives, blood pressure issues. Hopefully not, but I know, looking at how it isn't such a good thing at the moment, so many people experiencing it. So what are some things people can do, lifestyle changes?
It's pretty rife at the moment, blood pressure and cardiovascular conditions in general. I think it's important to be said as well that if you have a diagnosed condition where there is an issue with the heart itself, that is a different thing to what we're talking about this evening, which is that is something that needs to be under the guidance of a doctor, specialist, so on and so forth. But we're really talking tonight about the mystery high blood pressure. You know, I went to the doctor, they took my blood pressure and skyrocketing. We don't really know why, but it's there, and then onto medication and so on. So that's the blood pressure that we're referring to. And as always, what we would always say is that you need, anything that we would recommend or put forward is that you work in alignment with your GP and other healthcare providers as well. But I think it's really important to discuss potentially just the reason why we're experiencing high blood pressure as well. And so I am referring to the work of Anthony William, which is the medical medium, and in addition to some of the Ayurvedic principles as well. But really, when it comes to high blood pressure, we're looking at the system is overburdened, the body is overburdened. So the heart is there to pump blood, right, around our system, but it's not designed to pump thick, fat-laden blood. And the more overburdened our bloodstream is, and particularly the liver, where a lot of our filtration happens, this is where the blood pressure becomes an issue, because the heart is working really hard to pump through this thickened blood, which it's not designed to do. So if we want to support high blood pressure and bring it back to equilibrium, we need to be looking at supporting the liver, which is the key filtration device, and kind of doing it in three key ways. One would be to markedly reduce your fat intake. So that's not just for a high cholesterol issue, this is for a high blood hypertension issue, because the fat is what it is within the cells, but then is also thickening the blood and causing the pressure issue. So markedly reducing your fats means about 10 to 15% of your diet overall, right? So, and this includes nut butters, avocados, vegan cheeses. I'm not just also talking about Big Mac and fries and chocolate. There, you can also be high in fat on a vegetarian plant-based diet, and I think that really needs to be stressed. You know, a lot of people go, well, I don't eat sausages and I don't eat bacon and I don't eat, but you can still be having a really high fat diet on a plant-based eating as well. You know, avocado oil and coconut oil and nut butters and all these sorts of things can again start to overburden the liver, because remember that the liver really is designed to cleanse things out and to filter things out, so it can't do everything, and high fat content is one of the things that is going to overburden it massively. Yes, so
that's so interesting.
It's even to a point where I'd be like, you don't even need to go on any strict cleansing program or regimen, but if you were to go, okay, let's reduce the fats to 10 to 15% a day, but then also look at the protein content in your diet. So I know that the message for high protein diets is really strongly pushed, and I'm not advocating just to eat plants. You can have chicken and beef and fish, and you can eat all those animal products, but reduce the intake to how much you're having, and also try and relieve your body of having them too early in the day. Try and push them out a little bit into the afternoon. And
I mean, I know why, because you mentioned it last time, but for those who weren't listening last time or missed the show,
sure,
why do they need to consume their fats at lunch onwards?
So the liver works the hardest during the night when you're sleeping, to detox from what you've consumed and what you've been exposed to from the day before. So the detoxing or the cleansing, natural cleansing process of your body continues into the morning. So if you have two choices really, when you wake up, you can either stop the cleansing and detoxing process, or you can help it along. So with a very traditional perspective on diet, generally we would be stopping the detoxing process through, a heavy breakfast of either cereal or a cooked breakfast, or, even a porridge with like full cream milk and yogurt and lots of other things on top of it. The liver then goes, whoa, I can't detox and I can't deal with the fats at the same time. Right, so it'll shut that process off and just start to work on what it is that you've exposed it to. But if we want to help it cleanse and detox, and the reason it needs to cleanse is that it needs to get rid of overload, burden, and that's where a lot of chronic illness stems from, including high blood pressure. That isn't linked to any other condition. So in the morning, if we want to help our healing process along, we then hydrate the body rather than dehydrate it. So lots of hydrating liquids rather than dehydrating liquids like caffeine and coffees and teas and all that sort of thing. And then stop the fat intake to about lunchtime. And then the liver can just naturally keep doing what it wants to do, which is just get rid of all the gunk from last night. And it makes sense in the fact that when you wake up, you need to go to the toilet, your mouth's all fairy, you might have a skin outbreak because your body is cleansing overnight. And all we really need to do is give it the chance and the environment to do what it naturally does best, which is to look after you. Right? It's there to protect you, but it can't do it in the wrong environment.
So, like a lot of people have their coffee first thing in the morning, let's just push it out a few hours.
Yeah.
We're not saying
I'm
don't have
not,
it,
I'm
just
not
have
saying
it
don't
really
have
late.
it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say if you have high blood pressure, however, there is a chance that you're also quite dehydrated. And I'm not talking about, I haven't had enough water from yesterday. I'm talking years of being critically dehydrated, which is for many of us, it's lots of dehydrating liquids, whether that's soft drinks and caffeines and other drying beverages, but also the fact that our diets are so heavily laden with fats and proteins with not enough emphasis on fresh fruits and vegetables, which I know sounds logical. You know, we're telling our kids all the time, make sure you eat your fruit and your veggies. But as adults, the ratio on our plates and what we're consuming on a weekly basis is not conducive to a well-hydrated body and a happy liver, really. And I don't think then there's any real surprise that chronic symptoms start to pop up.
Yeah.
Because the body can only do so much.
And we're in that mindset now in the modern Western world, especially Western world, that, you know, it's normal. I'm getting older, so I'm going to get sick. You know, that's the mentality. Okay, I'm in my 50s, of course I'm going to have high blood pressure, of course I'm going to have diabetes and this and that and a bit of stress. No,
And
not
I'm
necessarily,
going,
you
no,
don't need to.
no.
Well, actually, no, that's not our natural state. Our natural state is health and wellness always, at any age.
Very much so. But I think it's what we all hope for and what we'd all like to achieve, obviously. But I think it's knowing, as the Ayurvedics would always say, is the root cause is imperative. We need to understand why something has started in order for us to do something about it. So delving into understanding what's happening in our systems is key. And so that's where the work of Anthony William is really important, and it needs to be a referral point for understanding conditions like high blood pressure.
So Anthony William is
The medical medium, and
he wrote a book. I think you told us about that last time.
Yeah, and it's a large part of the toolbox that we use in helping people to recover from chronic illness, because there is a new light being shed on the reason why these conditions are starting and what we can do about it. And I think it seems very simple and logical. That's because it is, and it means that we also can do something about it each and every day with what we put into our bodies. That's where it starts.
So what about the connection with sodium, salt intake and blood pressure? I know that's sort of one, and potassium as well.
I think if you're trying to heal, you need to reduce your salt intake.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your condition is, right from cancer to high blood pressure to eczema to migraines. We are far too heavy on the salt. And again, from the Ayurvedic perspective, every taste is important. You have 6 key tastes, and each of them should be on the plate in order for a balanced palate, but also a balanced body. But we're no longer just talking about a sprinkle of salt on our veggies at night. We're talking about salt in almost everything that we consume, particularly in the packaged and processed industries. So, you know, from bought biscuits to, you know, even our children's, you know, snack bars and all these they're just laden with
even
it.
sweet cookies.
Yeah,
salt
like,
too, don't
yeah,
they? Yeah.
lots and lots of stuff.
But we
So-
think we're not eating salt, but we are.
But we are. We're consuming it in so many different ways. So really reducing salt, if you want to heal, period, you have to reduce it to a point where you're pretty much salt-free unless you choose to put it on your food. It has a really drying effect on the body. So it's a dehydrator. I mean, if you think about putting salt water in your mouth for a while, your mouth feels like the Sahara Desert, and that's basically what's happening internally. So the key to healing is to increase your hydration. That's really what you want to do, is you want to be hydrated on a deep cellular level. So it's not just about having water, it's the type of water that you're having as well.
And then from the fruits, the watery fruits.
Yeah, fruits, but also, so most of the water that we now consume is what we would classify as dead water, right? So because it's so laden with chemicals and processing, and that's a whole nother discussion, my little beef with tap water, but it is what we would consider dead. There's not a lot of life to it at all. So we have to do something in order for our bodies to, look, if you're not having filtered water, your body's filter will try to filter it out, and that's your liver, right? So if your liver's overburdened, then it's trying to do an extra job on top of everything else. So filtered water is absolutely critical.
Reverse osmosis, things like that.
Probably not reverse osmosis, maybe, even a Puritap will do it. Is that a reverse osmosis?
I don't know.
Maybe use the wrong
What's the
language?
difference between filter and reverse osmosis?
I don't know enough about it. I'm not an expert in the filtration field.
Yeah, I was just looking at ways of getting more life in the water. Can we get more life in the water?
Yes, you can. And the best way to do it is add lemon.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the best ways that we can So lots of people will say to me, yeah, but I drink heaps of water, like 2 or 3 litres a day, but I'm constantly thirsty. That's because we're drinking water that's got zero life in it, but also it's not getting to your cells, the deep tissue stuff. So the way to hydrate on that level is to add fresh lemon juice to your water, fresh lime as well, equal, either lemon or lime, and also fresh fruit juices. So if you go and get yourself a nice fresh juice, some orange juice, watermelon, like melon smoothies and melon juices are extremely hydrating, because they're just big balls of purified water, really. And in accordance to the work of Anthony William, will say it's kind of the closest liquid we have on Earth to our blood system. So melon juice and water is very similar to our human blood, and therefore hydrates and works with it really well. And coconut water is the other one.
And you can buy coconuts from supermarkets.
And coconut water is already
Foodland, all of
pre-packaged
them.
now. Yeah.
The real coconut.
Yeah, I would love to be in a place where I could just walk out the front and pop one off the palm, and
tree.
I'd
So
love that, because it's one of nature's great gifts, that one. So we're talking about the type of liquid we consume as well, and so you've really got to park the idea of 2 litres of tap water versus 500 ml of watermelon juice is a completely different playing field, particularly when it comes to trying to heal ourselves. So particularly when it comes to, I know our focus is high blood pressure, we really need to look at reducing that category of that high fat, high protein laden diets, increase the hydration, and increase those wild foods like fruits and veggies, herbs and spices. Then we can start to see a turnaround. And I do believe that hypertension is something that we can do a lot about.
Yeah,
it's a condition we can
and also
do something with.
when you are taking drinks, not to have them as ice water, like added ice, so the body works hard enough to digest. So if you can take it like at body temperature, it's much easier to digest as well. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, it kind of like doses or puts out the Agni, the digestive fire, if you have anything too cold. So keeping things room temperature is more absorbable. Or warm water is also very good through the day as well.
So what about, on the water topic, what about boiled water? Is that, that's not life water, is it either? But with a herbal tea added, would that make it a bit better?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I think at the moment we're dealing with life resources that are really different. They've been really tainted, and it's a really unfortunate thing. I think we can do something about that, and I hope for the future of myself and my kids and our community that it looks very different. But I think at this point we can safely say that yes, you can boil it, but it's still not going to do the trick without us adding some things to it to help the body digest it. And you can feel it too if you drink a nice big glass of lemon water versus a plain one, my children will get that one down the hatch in a couple of seconds versus the tap water. I can barely get them to drink half a cup. So the body does take it on in a really different way. So you can just trial it.
When you say you can feel it.
You absorb it very
Back to
differently.
what you said earlier, Beatrice, about trusting. You know yourself, trust yourself. Okay, yeah, that tastes different. I feel satiated. I feel relieved, like I'm not thirsty anymore. Okay, what I do different? Add the lime next time.
And there is so much mindless activity, and in particular when eating, like people really don't know, well, they're not connected, they're not aware that they're actually eating or drinking. They just sort of like just go through the motions, and again, you're not connecting into the self to know, what is it that I need? Do I need that piece of chocolate? Yes, I do. I really want it. Well, then enjoy it and eat it with awareness instead of just sitting and eating.
And that's where we do lose a lot of track of how much sodium we do consume and how many fats we do consume. Because even if, and I'm not actually on either camp, I'll just put it out there, I'm not plant-based or animal-based. Ayurveda isn't, and we aren't as practitioners one way or the other. But I think it's that's where even on people who are plant-based eaters will often say, oh, my fat content's not that high, or I don't have that much. I'm like, yeah, but add it up. Avocado on toast, and then you'll stir fry your things in avocado oil or coconut oil, and then you'll have coconut milk at night. So all of a sudden, and it's that, so again, it brings us back to the idea of presence. If we really looked at what we are eating and what we are snacking on, or how much we're truly drinking and what kind of liquids we're drinking, it's a very different ball game that and we have to be quite analytical about our consumption and quite honest about it. And I'm no master, so just putting it out there. But I think, when it comes to chronic illness or chronic symptoms, you have to have that level of awareness and bringing it back to understanding the root cause and what you're going to do about it.
Perfect.
So.
And in the faith in the body, that the body can heal.
And it knows what to do. It's a very intelligent system, but it can only do so much, right? So it's always in your corner, and it's always your biggest advocate. That's why you have your immune system. That's why science blows my mind. The human body blows my mind. But also, too, we have to give it the right environment, right? You can't keep
100%.
beating something up and then hoping it'll come out swinging for you. It doesn't work that way.
That's right.
We also have to give it a break. Right, give everything a break and give it a good clean out, and then see what starts to happen. It's quite remarkable.
I didn't cut. No one cut you off. I felt like you were going to say something. A couple of sentences back.
That's absolutely fine. That's all good.
All right. So we've come to the end of the program. Another 1 minute left. Anything else you want to cover before we wrap it up?
Just also remember that those daily practices, those daily choices that you make, do have an effect on how you travel through life, and you do have a choice. In every moment you have a choice, and from my perspective, the yoga, the breath work, breathing, for high blood pressure, for any chronic illness, it is one of the key things to healing. And there are so many beautiful practices out there available, and so go see qualified yoga teacher and start putting yoga into your daily practice, through yoga, meditation, breath work, lifestyle choices. There's so much that you can do. Just feel yourself empowered, but also seek some help and support, because it's not an easy one to do on your own. And both Tamika and I and Lee and Dr. Sharma, we are constantly cleansing and regrouping, because there's so many toxicities that we're digesting daily.
Exactly.
So we need to do that practice, and it's not an easy path sometimes, because sometimes it makes you feel worse before you feel better. So having that person or that counsel in place of support, it makes your journey so much easier, and you'll be more successful as well. So there are plenty of wonderful practitioners out there, and we're really willing to help and put it out there. And the other aspect is also, which I'm really hot on at the moment, is sound. So using our sound therapies, and I mean, it's traditionally goes in so many cultures is the chanting and the different vibrations. They don't do it just for the fun of it.
Exactly.
There's a lot of there's a big science behind it, and it's amazing. It's just it blows my mind. It's just so exciting. But there are so many tools out there. Don't feel like you're alone, and you can do this.
That might be another session, sound healing. And could you do one in the studio here? Could you use your instruments in here or not?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the bowls, because of the multi-layers of sounds, it doesn't always pick up, depending on the microphones.
Yeah,
so we probably have to try it out, but it is so wonderful. So I'm doing a sound bath on the 14th of July.
Oh, good. Can people come to that?
Yes, they can.
Oh, tell us how. Like in 20, 30 seconds.
Just on Facebook or message me directly, and
or Beatrice Lemm on Facebook. We can get all the info.
Yeah, either through East West or through Utana, either or.
Yeah, how do you spell Utana?
Uthana
on Facebook.
Yeah.
And Tamika is the Sattva Centre on Facebook, and website?
thesattvacentre.com, and also on Instagram as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much,
Forward to
Bianca.
hearing from
time.
everybody, and
Appreciate
thank
it.
you so much,
You're
Bianca.
welcome. Thank you.
See you again.